Hi everyone. Oh, my eyebrows are looking huge. So, on the UK Fruit Fest forum, which is on Facebook, and you can join that UK Fruit Fest community if you want to join that on Facebook. I wrote this post and it got a lot of attention and feedback. And the post was this. I wrote, I don't buy, this is in quotation marks, I don't buy conventional grapes because they taste like pesticides. So I'd seen someone say something like that on a forum. I don't buy conventional grapes because they taste like pesticides. Okay. Okay then. And I've written, this is all in your mind. The amounts of pesticides remaining on fruits and vegetables are trace amounts and most of the time virtually undetectable amounts. They can be detected by instruments that can measure the presence of chemicals to parts per million, but you are only tasting them in your imagination. Every year, a totally unscientific group called the Environmental Working Group puts out false information that is unsupported by the scientific community. One publication they are responsible for is the Dirty Dozen list, a propaganda list of supposed fruits and vegetables that have most pesticides remaining on them. Sadly, people actually buy into this nonsense, and it causes a stir in the media every year. The only effect of this is to reduce the consumption of fruits and vegetables across the board. This despite the fact that the biggest pesticide exposure comes from animal products, not fruits. Also, the benefit of consuming fruits far outweighs any tiny possibility of trace levels of pesticides causing any harm. Regardless, the organic conspiracy theorists will go on continuing to spread misinformation and thinking that there is a difference between conventional grapes and organic grapes. Of course, they hide the fact that organic does not and never has meant no pesticides. Organic growers simply use other pesticides. But they're less harmful pesticides for us and the environment, right? Nope. Sometimes worse. Not everything natural is better. But organic food is healthier and more nutritious. That's not been proven either. Ironically, fruits and vegetables contain naturally occurring pesticides, and organic varieties have occasionally been bred to increase these natural pesticides, in some instances causing allergic reactions in the public and calling for those specific varieties to be recalled. Organic is just a concept that fits in line with various fears and paranoias that people have. Everyone likes to believe there is a perfect and natural world we can all live in without any man-made interference. I would say let's let the farmers do their job. Let's stop pretending we know better. Drop the conspiracy nonsense that farmers are destroying the soil and our food. This is childish stuff and no proof exists for it. Eat fruits and vegetables with no fear. Buy what looks the tastiest and freshest. The organic label means very little other than a premium price added. So I got 80 comments, 11 shares, 51 likes. So I've not put any links to the research on all these things. And a bunch of people got back to me saying, oh, you support Monsanto. I will choose organic wherever possible. And blah, blah. Like, some people say some of it's right, some of it's not right. Some people have said, I disagree with this. Pesticides are dangerous. Blah, 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 blah. So, a lot of different things. Now, going through this, the first statement I make, the amount of pesticides remaining on fruits and vegetables are trace amounts, most of the time virtually undetectable. So I guess I'll be coming out with more specific information on this. But what I found recently was the information on this is quite open, and in terms of testing that's been done on fruits and vegetables that are conventionally available and grown, 10%. Now, maybe I need to look further into this and see all the other sources, but 10% have detectable amounts of trace pesticides. That means 90% of conventional produce, according to that information, had undetectable amounts. So could not be detected. So how are you tasting it if it can't be detected by instruments that have a sensitivity greater than your palate? How are you tasting stuff that is undetectable? 10% has a detectable amount. Those amounts, in terms of that testing, were always below the tolerance levels, the safe levels. Now, you might say to yourself, well, pesticides must be really toxic, they kill people, and like that's maybe what you think. But a pesticide, if it's the pesticides killing the pests or interfering with the pests, they don't actually have to kill the pests. They might just interfere with them. They might just make the pest not want to land on the food. The food. They might make the pest not able to put eggs. There's different mechanisms. In terms of those, they don't have to be particularly strong to deal with very small pests. So, an example of a pesticide could be coffee. And in fact, coffee or caffeine is in plants as a natural pesticide. An example of a pesticide could be alcohol. An example of a pesticide, well, I can't think of another one, but I mean, the skin of an orange. The skin of an orange, the chemicals that are naturally within that could be used as a pesticide. So we're talking about something of that nature, not necessarily cyanide or something that would just kill you stone dead, So we're talking about that. And then we're talking about a trace amount of that. So imagine you take a cup of coffee, a cup of coffee, and you pour it into a swimming pool of water. And you mix that around, Olympic-sized swimming pool, and you go to taste the water. Are you going to have any effect? Are you going to taste the caffeine? Now imagine it's not a swimming pool, but it's like a lake and this cup of coffee. So this is what we're talking about here in terms of trace amounts. And people seem to think that their fruits and vegetables are covered, doused in this stuff, and it's just there all like this is what's happened with the way the organic movement has lied to people. Just flat out lied. And there's definitely been times where there's been bad pesticides used. There's been mistakes made. Definitely. But generally, and right now, generally that's not the case. So that's the first thing. The amounts left over are very small. If you think you're tasting something, you're just tasting something is part of the fruit itself, most likely. And if you're tasting chemicals, by the way, it could be anything. It could be in the packaging process. It could be the person handling it that had something in their hands. Who knows what it was? But the idea that it's definitely the pesticide, who knows? Who knows the environment it's been stored in, how it's been transported, and all the rest of it. But pesticides tend to be very small amounts left over, if any, if it can even be detected. That's not the prevailing idea that most people have with pesticides. They think it's like, oh, it's covered in pesticides, They think they can taste pesticides. No, you're just tasting the chemicals that are in fruits and vegetables naturally. I talked about every year a totally unscientific group called the Environmental Working Group puts out information that's unsupported by the scientific community. As far as I can see, that's pretty much correct. The Environmental Working Group is a lobbying group based in Washington that puts out the Dirty Dozen list and other information. And they make money doing certifications and different things. And I think they get money from the whole organic industry. This Dirty Dozen list is not something that's highly supported scientifically. It's something that's absolutely spread like wildfire, and even raw vegan educators will talk about it. Now, I'm no longer surprised about that. Raw vegan educators just don't even bother checking things. They just hear random things and pass it on. Like, unfortunately, the supplement industry nonsense, they'll pass that about. Random stuff from alternative health, they'll pass that around without looking deeply into it. And this is Dirty Dozen list is an example of this. Like, where did it come from? Why are they publishing it? Who's putting it out there? To me, the effect of that is people not eating fruits and vegetables. That's why, as soon as when I started to think about that, I thought, like, I've never strongly bought into any of these things. So when I saw that, I'd be like, okay, but people are killing themselves eating the other foods. Why are we worrying about the pesticides on fruits and vegetables? Why is that the worry? Why is that the thing that's getting promoted and put out there? Why is that the thing everyone's talking about? You know? And it's just this thing put out by this lobbying group. It's not a highly scientific piece of information. They're not a highly scientific group. They're not particularly supported by the whole nutrition world. So maybe this is the first time you've heard that. Maybe you don't like, maybe I'm hurting your feelings. Maybe the truth is hard to take. But if you were focusing on the Dirty Dozen list, like this is the thing. This is the thing to follow. Okay, what is it this year? Oh, I better not buy conventional blueberries. Like, that's just silly. If you were ever following that, it's just pure nonsense. I mean, there'll probably be some truth to it, but like, it's like, oh, this has, slightly more trace amounts. 5% of blueberries have tiny amount more trace amounts of this almost undetectable pesticide than strawberries. Like, it's nonsense. It's built up to be something bigger than it is. And you not having blueberries is worse for your health than trying to avoid pesticides. I mentioned that the biggest pesticide exposure comes from animal products, not fruits. I'm pretty sure that's correct. And it's probably still not a big deal either. In that case, it might be, but it's probably not that big a deal. The worst thing about animal products is the saturated fat, the high levels of protein, the lack of fiber. It's just not an ideal food for us. Also, the benefit of consuming fruits far outweighs the possibility of trace levels of pesticide causing harm. I believe that's entirely true. I've seen that scientifically shown, so I can get the source for that. Organic movement tries to continue to hide the fact that there are no pesticides. Now, they don't hide the fact that organic doesn't mean no pesticides, but the public perception of why they choose organic, if they do choose organic, is because they assume healthier, better for the environment, less pesticides or no pesticides. That's what people assume. And it's not the case. They have different pesticides that are used. Sometimes those pesticides can be more harmful because they have to be used more because they're less effective. So is it really worthwhile? Organic food is not healthier or more nutritious. As far as I've seen, it's not been proven to be healthier or more nutritious. Some people have replied that it's got more mineral content. I doubt it. Why would it? What would make any difference with that? But anyway, Fruits and vegetables have naturally occurring pesticides. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Fruits and vegetables have naturally occurring pesticides. This is where the whole concept of pesticides comes from. Where do you think the pesticides themselves come from? Come from plants. And there was a case, organic varieties, in order to be organic, in order to have no pesticides used, the only solution is to breed varieties that are resistant, highly resistant to pests, which means you're breeding varieties that have higher levels of pesticide within them. This has happened in the past where a variety of celery was grown that had a high level of natural pesticide. They required less sprayed pesticide for it. It went into the shops, people went to buy it, and people started to develop rashes and had allergic reactions to it, and it had to be taken off the shelves. That's an actual thing that happened. I had a friend who had an allergy to salicylic acid. Salicylic acid is a natural pesticide in plants. I think it's also an aspirin, but he had an allergy to salicylic acid. He was told to avoid organic fruits and vegetables because there are examples of organic fruits and vegetables that had higher natural levels of salicylic acid because they've been bred to be more resistant to have these higher levels of natural pesticide. Now, that probably wasn't his problem, organic fruits and vegetables, but it just goes to show that people were having allergic reactions at some point. And I do believe that the whole organic thing, it fits in with certain conspiracy theories. It fits in with paranoias, fears, biases. I personally try and take the middle line a lot of the time. I hear conspiracies, I like them, I'm interested, but I'm always like, okay, until there's like really strong evidence, I'm not really going to buy into that. I don't really like conspiracy theories. I don't like, oh, it's all bad farmers. It's all bad people in a boardroom somewhere. It's all bad people doing evil things. Like, it's not a very good explanation for why things happen. And if your theory relies upon evil people doing bad things to people, it's not a great theory. There needs to be a bit more to it than that. And I think people make mistakes. We've made mistakes, and farmers have made mistakes, and scientists have made mistakes, and the government's made mistakes. But a lot of the time, that was mistakes. It wasn't an actual attempt to harm people. But some people want to believe that the world is, it's all evil and there's bad people, and that's their personal excuse for why they're not maybe doing better in their life or enjoying their life. But it's not just that. It's like, to me, conspiracy theories is people that have a tremendous amount of time on their hands start to dwell on these things, and start to use it as an excuse, like not to get involved in the world, not to get involved in life, not to get out there and do something. And they get more and more self-involved, self-obsessed, more internal focused. And I don't think that's good for anyone. If you're really dwelling on conspiracy theories a lot, consider if you've got too much time on your hands, seriously. And consider if you've not actually taken on a lot of responsibility in your life at the moment. Like, maybe you need to go out and get a job, or another job. Like you've got too much. Like, if you're working full time, maybe you need another job on top of that. Like, maybe you've got way too much time to be contemplating these things. It's childish stuff, and no proof exists for it. The stuff about like the soil depleted, there's not really any proof for that. I don't know why that idea gets shared over and over, and people just say that to me like, Ronnie, you're wrong about this. The soil is depleted. Like, well, you have to prove that. I don't have to prove that the soil isn't depleted, because we've got supermarkets full of food that prove the opposite. Like, the soil isn't depleted. Look, we have mountains of food. How is the soil depleted? Go to your local farm. Where's the soil depleted? Have a look out your window. Oh, look, soil all over the place. Where's it being depleted? It's all up here. Fantasies. Absolute fantasies. And I've tried to look. Listen, I try to disprove these ideas that I have sometimes. I look for the scientific evidence. I've been in long-term debates with people. Don Bennett's one of them, about this soil depletion thing, about the soil depletion leading to mineral deficiencies in the food. I was looking. They weren't providing me with the evidence, so I went and searched for it and could not find it. And if any of you want to share it with me, listen, there's a few articles. You can find articles from journalists, but it's not strong stuff, and it's mostly been debunked. So I don't need to prove. The proof needs to come from the other side. So the organic label means little other than a premium price added. I think that is the case a lot. I do think organic food's probably more expensive to grow to some degree, and so it has to go up in price. But I don't think it really merits this kind of perception that people have that it's much better. In the UK, organic hasn't really taken off. In the US, you go into some stores and organic is like prevalent, hugely prevalent among the stores. And organic's probably what helped build like Whole Foods and various chains of supermarkets and stuff like that. And it's really expensive. Way more expensive. Produce in the US seems to be more expensive than in the UK a lot of the time. And bizarre. And it's just allowed them to put up prices, and people put up with that. Organic is also not vegan, and probably less vegan than conventional farming. So that's another reason. But it's a popular idea. It's not a scientific idea. So when people come to me and say, "Where's my science?" I'm like, "No, you have to prove it. The science is on my side. For the soil depletion thing, the science is on my side. You have to prove it. It's not me that has to prove." It's like me saying, do you know that fruit exists in the world? And people say, "Ronnie, where's the science?" Like, well, no, you need to prove that it doesn't exist. Like, if you're saying something that goes against now that's the thing, is some things go against the popular idea, but the popular idea is not the idea of the scientific community. Anyway, people watch YouTube conspiracy documentaries and they think that that's truth. Well, it's not truth. It's conspiracy documentaries. It's marketing. Please wake up to that. Like, it's a marketing ploy. It's good marketing. Like, I admire it, but I don't admire poor ideas being put out there that make people scared about the food supply. And make people do wild things like, "Oh, I'm going to go and, leave the world and buy a farm somewhere and grow my own food." Like, you don't have to do that. Like, that's a nice idea if that's what resonates with you. But the idea that like all the food out there is really evil and it's bad and it's all toxic, like, it's not. It's maybe not perfect, but you should have confidence in it. The world's not perfect, right? Everything keeps getting better, though. You need to have a positive viewpoint on life, which is realistic. I don't know. People get caught up dwelling in the negative. It's just disempowering. Don't let things disempower you like that. Oh, we can't do anything about it. It's all bad people and it's nasty, and I need to just stay in and stay unemployed because I don't want to be part of the evil system. And this is bad. Confront the challenges of the world and of your life and do something about it. Go and speak to some farmers. If you believe in this thing, go and speak to some farmers. Why not do that? phone up some local farmers that live near you. Go and speak to them about this whole thing, about organic and non-organic and stuff like that, and see what they have to say. And pesticides, and go and ask them, what pesticides do you use? How much? How toxic are they? What's your thoughts on them? Why do you use them? Go and go and open yourself up to a conversation, and you might learn something. Anyway, thank you for watching, and feel free to comment below, and I'll see you in another video.